I also try to follow this very simple continuum, and again, what this isn't a one size fits all. It's merely something for me to use as a guide when I'm planning individual rehab, if you like. And nowadays, don't get me wrong, it's amazing that there's so much information freely available, but I also think we could become in danger sometimes of sort of getting carried away. So for me, by having these very clear, simple structures, it just helps to keep me grounded and keep on task, if you like, which should always be to return players as quickly and as safely as possible. So something that I do that works for me is I'll have this by my desk, and then obviously when I'm sort of doing my planning and my reflection of sessions, it might catch my eye. And like I say, I think it helps me to check and challenge. So with regards to some of these simple progressions and continuums, general to specific is fairly intuitive. Something I always try to do is I always try to work with the person and then the player. I also feel quite comfortable starting quite generally, trying to work on some very generic things, because the human body tends to want to move in the same way, and people need to have certain key competencies. So most individuals will need to be able to squat, lunge, hinge, sort of brace, rotate, push, pull, etc., etc. So I think, we can start there, no problems. We can make sure that they get brilliant at the basics before we look to progress them, and then we can make things a little bit more specific or individualized, if you like. Like I say, for me, especially if I'm working for a mid to long term with a mid to long term injury, I'll try to develop a volume base before adding in intensity. Now, I do know later on down the line, especially when the player goes back into sort of the normal team training and games pattern, that volume can be a little bit of a silent killer. But for me, early on in the rehab process, I do think it has a place, because obviously something that I want to try to do is I want to restore that good aerobic base, if you like. Like I mentioned earlier, I need to make sure that the tissues have the tolerance to cope with the intensities which are going to follow. And if you like, that they have the general capacity and capabilities to transition through their field-based rehab into return to training, return to play, etc., etc. So I guess something that goes hand in hand with this as well, with regards to building a good base, is I always try to go from strength to speed. And I know there's some other people doing some great work in this field, and Bill Knowles in particular will spring to mind. And he's saying that basically there's no point in trying to speed something up until you can slow it down. And to be honest, I'm a big proponent of this too. Because for me, strength is a prerequisite for speed. Because again, it goes back to tissue tolerance, and we need to make sure that we know that the players we're working with can